So, report came out this week that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to be running at the combine and that he may not even run at Pro Day. And I think it's great. And when asked why, he said, I want to go get better at football over the next 8 weeks, not get better at testing. And I think that's a phenomenal move by a guy like that. And I wish more guys were allowed to do that because it's so true. You get 8 weeks, right? So here's what I want people to understand. When you're a rookie, right, you get a year of hell. It's brutal, right? It is brutal. You get off your bowl game. Say you play in a Jan 1 bowl. You get off your bowl game. You immediately roll into your training facility. You're beat up from the season. You feel like dog crap. You get there for a few weeks. Immediately you go to your all-star game, go grind and pound out for another week. You get back. Now it's February 1st. You got 4 weeks till the combine. You're honed in. You're day every day. You're going. You go to the combine. As soon as that's over, you're immediately going into your pro day sometime in March. You might have 10, 30 visits. You might be traveling all over the country in April, going to all these places. And then it comes to the draft. And then once you get drafted, you can't even join the team for 2 weeks. Right? You can't even show up for OTAs. You have rookie mini camp, and then you get to go home, and then you come back, and then you finally show up in the middle of May. And then you're there for 4 weeks, essentially, and you leave in the middle of June, and then you get 5 weeks off or 3 weeks off, and then you come back in July, it's training camp. You don't get any development time in that. And when you spend the first 8 weeks of that focusing solely on just being a 40 runner and a jumper and a vert and all that stuff, you're losing valuable time of becoming a better football player and honing in your skills. And then when you show up in June, if you're not a freak show first, second, third rounder, like you're behind the 8 ball. And those coaches, when you show up, they no longer care, hey, how fast did you run? Hey, did you jump really high?
What was your 3 count?
Like, was your L drill amazing? It's like, hey, idiot, block that guy, run past that guy, catch that football, like cover the D. Like, it just is no longer about that. And then you flip them immediately, be like, well, now you're not great. What happened? Why aren't you a good football player right now? Right? Oh, well, OTAs, you've already lost a ton of trust. Right? You've lost a ton of trust. You've lost a ton of that. And so then it falls down the line of like you're fighting an uphill battle in training camp for the 8 to 10 roster spots that are available. And so I wish more guys would take this approach and would focus on football. And I know you can't because that's what the NFL is. And so I wish the NFL would find a way to get it back to focusing on football and focusing on what can make these guys better. Because at the end of the day, it's going to make your team better. It's going to give you a better chance to win championships. But I just hate that the combine has become such a focal point for all these guys to come and train and run and do all these things fast when it doesn't really matter about football. Like I wish the pre-draft process was more focused on football related than it was combine related, because at the end of the day, the combine was created for medical and interviews. And then while they were all there, they're like, let's make the cattle run 40s. What do you think? Yeah, should we make them all run and stand around their underwear for 2 hours?
Position groups where the data matters more, like an edge rusher has to hit certain data points, or would you say that the data points collected aren't nearly as important as just watching film on a guy's 15 games in the regular season?
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain positions that like you need to know top end speed, like receiver, DB. But like, how many times have we seen a running back that's not a 4.4 guy, but has a ton of success in the NFL because he's got great vision and great power, and he can come on like find the holes, right? I mean, DNs is a weird one for me because there's so many DNs that ran super fast, but then they get on the football field and they're not that strong, and so they're like, well, you're only a third down guy, I guess. Yeah. Like everyone oohed and awed about that dude from Georgia last year that ran a 4.39. Didn't really hear his name called much this year. Right? Like you're thinking edge rusher, it's a 4.39. Immediately you're like, ooh, ah. Then he disappears because he's only like 235 pounds. And you're like, sweet, come here, 4.9. I'll just 3.9. I'll just jump on you here. Right? So there's so many data points that go to it, but none of that equivalates to football, in my opinion. I mean, maybe the 40 with a receiver that can run and getting out of breaks, but you can find that out when watching guys tape. Like you can find all that out when watching guys tape.
Not surprised, though, his dad played for a very long time. And I'm sure his dad, because I don't think he has an agent either, right?
Who?
Marvin Harrison?
Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I think I saw Caleb Williams doesn't have an agent, too.
Yeah, but like I'm sure Marvin Harrison's dad was like, listen, fuck this shit. You're going to go play ball. You're going to be a top pick. You don't need to fucking prove anything. Like, that's a dad that played a very long time that's like, I know what's going on, okay? And guess what? Coaches love you. They think you're a great player. You running this 40, running this cone, running this shuttle is fucking stupid. There's a lot of us that feel like that. At the same time, you have to go and do it. It's a test. It's a big test. That's exactly what this is. That's kind of why I'm not against it, because it's a test to pull you out of your element and fuck with you and see what you're about and be like, okay, I know you don't want to run a 40. Fuck, son, I don't give a shit what your 40 is. As long as it's under fucking 5.5, we're good. But at the same time, we're going to bother with you. Like, we're going to keep you up late. The boys were talking to the boys the other day. Like, they keep you up late. They wake you up early. You sit around. You take a ton of tests. You're asking lots of questions. And then at night, everyone's like, okay, let's go stretch and run around. And you're like, fuck. And they're like, yes, dude, that's what this is all about. This is all about how long can you handle this? How long can you stay at your max? How long can you sit here and ride this fucking show out? Because if you can go the whole time, congratulations, dude. Welcome to the league. That's what this is. It is a massive test because every day something fucking crazy is going to happen. Every day you need to be ready. Every day you have to be on high alert.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking here at the schedule, right? So I have players for my schedule.
Oh, this is fun.
They are from on Wednesday when they arrive. Formal interviews go till 11:30 at night.
No shit.
Thursday when they arrive, start their morning at 6 a.m. Formal interviews end at 11:30 at night. Friday, 6 a.m. wake up, piss test. Formal interviews end at 10 o'clock at night. Saturday, 6 a.m. wake up, medical, end of 10:30 at night formals. And there's something all day long.
All day long. There is zero time off.
And then they don't run till Sunday night.
Yep.
Right. So everyone thinks when you get to the combine, you're like, oh, these guys are rested. They're fresh legged. They're ready to go run. They're at the end of the week. Their brains are fried, scrambled potatoes. Like they're all over the map. And then it's like, okay, go perform. And that's a piece of the test, too, of, hey, after we've messed with you all week, can you still go out and physically perform? So there are pieces to it. I just hate how much has been made of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And how much the public looks at it and takes it as gospel of guys like, oh, look at that test. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, he didn't get drafted on Saturday of the third day of the draft. It's like, because he's a shitty football player. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, people fall in love with these combine darlings that aren't necessarily good football players.
You know, here's my biggest question for you guys. The smartest front offices in the NFL and some of the smartest people, like John Elway was one of the great quarterbacks of all time, runs the Broncos front office for a number of years. Can't identify a quarterback, right? The 49ers, John Lynch, the roster that they've built, Super Bowl contenders for years, Kyle Shanahan. If they go through the entire process and say, yeah, we're trading all this capital to go get Trey Lance, and they whiff. It's so hard for the smartest people in the game to figure out who's a bust and who's not at quarterback, the most important position. I'm not expecting you guys to have any secret sauce answers, but like if you get a few days at the combine to sit down with a JJ McCarthy or a Drake May or whoever it is, you get to watch him maybe do some drills, maybe not, but you get what, 15 or 20 minutes in a room with him?
Yeah, formals are 15 minutes.
Can you is there anything you can do in those 15 minutes to figure out, ooh, I don't know about this guy, or that's interesting, this guy has something that unlocks
you need
success.
more than 15
No, you need
minutes.
way more.
Which is why, I mean, if you're truly talking about the quarterback situation, you bring them in on what's called the 30 visits, right? And sometimes people refer to them as top 30 visits, but what it really is you can bring in 30 dudes into your facility during the pre-draft process, right? And those 30 dudes can be, hey, I want to interview my first rounder and make sure it's really the guy that I want, all the way to identified top free agents in the draft that you want to recruit. Right, you want those guys to feel some love, right? Hey, we love you. We bring you in here, and then you feed them a line of bullshit on Saturday of like, man, we wanted to draft you, but we had another need and another position. I got overruled, but we still really want you to be here. Remember, we brought you in, right? And they try and play that recruiting game a little bit, and so it's everything in between. But if you're truly talking about a franchise quarterback, you got to get him in the building for a day, and you can find out a lot about a guy in a day. Right, you put him through a bunch of meetings, you make him meet with everyone, you just pick his brain and get everyone's opinion on him with a 24-hour period and then make that decision. You really don't get much in these 15 minutes with these dudes at the combine.
No, especially because they're coming from meeting to meeting to meeting. So you know they're kind of like all over. And when Jay's right, when you get them for a day, everybody's talking to them. And then you go ask everybody. And then the doctors are getting to see them and hang out with them. And honestly, you spend more time with the doctors at the combine than you do anybody. So if anybody had a better feel for you, it's them. And they're so funny and fucking cool that when you get in there with them, that you're just kind of laughing and hanging out, and they're kind of pulling on you and prodding on you. So when you do go to the coaches, now you're like, oh shit, this is different. These guys are serious. And all of a sudden they're trying to fucking be serious, and you're like, are we being serious? Or are you fucking, I don't understand what's going on right now. Like, and then all of a sudden Sunday night, you're like, I gotta run. I gotta fucking do what? I just set an MRI machine for 7 hours. Fucking kidding me, dude? I had to get everything. X-rayed, MRI'd. You're there all day at the hospital, and you're at a real hospital, and there's real people that are really sick, and you're like, do I need to be here? Do I need to be in this MRI machine?
Friday's the medical day for the O-lineman. So on the schedule, 8 a.m. starts your X-rays, and you are in medical scheduled until 6:30. So you're just in an MRI tube or in a waiting room all day long.
Wow.
And it without fail, every year an MRI tube breaks.
Yep.
And then you're shuttled to a different hospital. Like the amount of time I've had to bring every year, so I've gone, this is my third combine. My first 2 years, I've had to bring food and dinner to guys because they missed it because they were in medical.
Yep.
Right? Like, and they're like, hey, we got back, dinner's closed. It's like, all right, Chipotle or Jimmy John's or Chick-fil-A. Like, make your decision. I know that's what's around here, and I will bring it to you. Right? It's crazy what they put these dudes through at the combine, like the mental side. And they've tried to be better. The worst was 2 years ago when they made them run at night. Right? Like when they're like, hey, like the running backs didn't even get on the field until like 9 p.m. because they were trying to do this thing with the NFL Network because everything's a big money grab for the NFL.
That's right.
So
it's
like,
prime time. Let's go.
Prime
Let's
time.
go.
That would suck.
It's
9
so
o'clock
not
at
fair
night.
to these players,
Fuck
dude.
that.
It's just, I don't know. I'm salty about the combine. I wish they just did it better. I wish there was more football and it wasn't just about this testing and Daniel Jeremiah and the talking heads going, he's going to want to improve that time. That's not, it's like, shut the fuck up.
What about the and one more quick thing, and then we'll get to Booney's mic here. But there's now Rosenhaus, and by the way, Jeremiah is an agent. Jeremiah helps run an agency. He's a partner. You've got two of the top agencies now. Is it Athletes First and Rosenhaus that are telling their players do not take the S2 cognitive test? That replaced the old Wonderlic test, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the test scores get leaked. What do you make of that?
Here's what I think is funny. So I know who the guys who did that test and put the aptitude test on last year was the Houston Texans. As they had John Michael take it, right? And he took it. He's like, that was a weird test, dude. And he went through it. And then so when that test got leaked, they were like, hey, he didn't do so great on that test. I was like, ooh, I know the Texans gave that test. Like, hey, had everyone take that test. Texans took him second overall. So how much did that really affect what they thought about him? Or was it all a ploy so that the Carolina Panthers didn't take him at number one?
We can
right?
Tepper.
You have to understand everything that happens in pre-draft is calculated by these teams. Like guys like Chicago will bring in someone on a 30 visit that they have zero intention of drafting. Zero intention. Just to screw with everybody else. And there'll be teams that do that all the time. They'll be like, hey, we don't really want this guy, but I bet you the teams behind us do. So let's act like we're going to take him, and maybe they'll trade up with us. Like, there's so many of the little chess moves, but I don't see a reason not to take a test, right? I don't think that it hurts you unless you're really stupid. Like, you really should probably not take that test. And there's some dudes out there where you're like, hey, one hand red, one hand yellow, right, left. But overall, like, I think it's a good thing to take those tests because, I mean, the NFL is a complicated beast, and they need to see, can you handle things? Can you process things? Like, I think it's fine to take it. I really don't see an issue taking those tests.
I agree. Plus, I don't believe half the stuff coming out anyways. Like when
That's-
they're like,
that's the thing,
CJ
like-
Stroud didn't do well, you're like, that's a fucking lie. He went number 2 overall and he had a great season. How many people see? You guys are believing it again. You're believing exactly what these teams want you to because the Houston Texans loved him that much. They were like, watch this. We're going to say he failed this S2 test and everybody's going to hate him. Instantly, everybody was like, oh my God. They were like, see, they're all fucking idiots. We don't care what you do on a test. This test was failable from the beginning. It was not passable in any way, but you sat down and you fucking took it like we asked you to. There's your test. There's the simplest fucking test we've asked you. If we ask you to do something in this fucking time frame, I expect that you do it. If you don't do it, don't expect these doors to open ever. That's how this league is fucking run. That's why I love this league. Because when the coaches call you, they're like, hey, you did it. You fucking did what I asked you to do. And I know it hurt really, really bad, but now we're going to pay you. And you're like, thank you. They're like, you passed. You passed the fucking test, stupid. It wasn't hard. You just had to keep going and going and going and going. And when you do, dude, it's fucking awesome.
I was going to see if we could take the test on this podcast, but you have to go to an S2 location you have to go to a physical location to take the test.
I can get us Wonderlicks. You want to take a Wonderlick with us?
We could do, if we could,
It's
how long
fucking
does it
fun.
take? Can we do it
I
on the
think you only
pod?
get 10 minutes.
You only get
Isn't it?
12. It's 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's 50,
12?
50 questions.
Yeah,
in 12
I walked in
minutes,
the other day when the boys were all taking them. And I tried fucking with them, and they were like, "Stop, stop!" I was like, "Okay."
If you can get a Wonderlick, I will take a Wonderlick on this.
Oh yeah, I got a ton of them. I get two.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have practice
It can be
tests.
an